Good morning, good evening. Uh,
Recording in progress. There's always people screaming on these things.
all right. Okay. So I think it's slowing down, so I think we've let in as many as we can, and they just keep coming in. So, Ms. Diaz, can you take over? Do you wanna?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Glad you all can make it. We wanted to welcome our hosts, Marie and Miss Megan, who are over at Montclair University, who are going to be talking to us this evening about admissions to college and some of your questions about accommodations and how to get services and all any other questions that you might have for the evening. If everybody could just mute so that there's no distractions while they're presenting, and I will let you guys take it away.
Just before we let Montclair take it away, we do just want to let the families know we do have a Spanish translator with us this evening, Miss Calamano. She has joined us, so she is on. If anyone needs translation, maybe you can just raise your hand, let us know, and Miss Calamano can make contact with you, and we can take breaks if necessary, or she can dialogue with you and explain the presentation in Spanish for you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Soy Denise Calimano, una de las consejeras en la escuela de Paintac. Esta noche voy a estar traduciendo la presentación de la Universidad de Montclair. Voy a intentar traducir en el chat lo más posible para no interrumpir la presentación, pero si algún momento tienen alguna pregunta durante la sesión de preguntas, pueden hacerla y yo hago lo mejor posible para traducirles. Gracias.
Beautifully said, Ms. Calamano. We will begin the presentation with Montclair, and Maria and Megan can take over.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Sabatino, Ms. Diaz, for the invitation today. We are so excited to meet our families, our parents, our students, and provide you some information about what we do at the DRC, or Disability Resource Center at Montclair State. Just a little bit of an introduction. My name is Megan Hearns. I'm the director of the DRC, which is what we call our office. So I'll probably be saying that a lot this evening because Disability Resource Center is a tongue twister sometimes. So I am the director. I handle the administrative aspects of the DRC, as well as having a caseload myself of students that I work with. Specifically, I handle online accommodations for students regarding COVID, our parking accommodations, dining accommodations for students, and cart or captioning and interpreting services for students, as well as our general academic accommodations. Again, thank you and welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Marie Tizan. I'm the Assistant Director for the Disability Resource Center. I'm actually an alum, So I graduated at Montclair in 2004 with my bachelor's degree in psychology, and then I started working full time at that point at the Disability Resource Center. So I'm a Red Hawk through and through. And then I also have my master's degree in counseling, and I received that in 2011. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak to all of you just about what our office provides here. In particular, my responsibilities as the assistant director, I have a caseload of my own of students. I work with a wide range of students and various disabilities. So I have students that are blind and visually impaired. I work with students that are pregnant. I work with students that may need housing accommodations. I also assist, students in other various disabilities, whether they are psychological in nature, chronic medical conditions, sensory, really the whole gamut. So thank you for having me here, and I hope that we can answer some questions for you here tonight.
So we wanted to kind of begin telling you a little bit about the process. It is standard across the board when it comes to higher education. So whether you're looking to come to Montclair State as a Red Hawk, which of course we're going to promote, or if you want to go to any other school across the country, the intake process, or what we call as self-identification, that process is consistent in higher education. So what I like to tell families is you don't want to provide the IEP, the 504, any documentation when you apply to the school. That information is best discussed in or addressed in an essay or in a statement. If there's a marking period or a grading issue, or if your student wants to show their resiliency, their ability to manage their time, their maturity, and they're using that information to display that information, that's best put in an essay. The admissions departments, it is against law for admissions to use any of that information in an admissions decision, unless that school has a specific program that you're applying to as part of the admission. So some schools have certain programs that are specifically for a student with a learning disability. If you're applying to that program as part of the admissions process, that's separate. But as a general admission to any college or university, don't put this information. Once you're accepted, once you decide you want to come to Montclair State, shameless plug, that's when you want to reach out to the DRC or the disability office at that university or college and provide that documentation. Self-identification is the most, is that first step and that first significant change in the process in higher ed. This information does not automatically transfer over to college. And the other difference is this information does not populate in any internal database that the university may use. So at Montclair, we have several platforms in which professors communicate with students. Students find out their degree completion, their grades, their transcripts, all sorts of different information. DRC information is not included in that. So K through 12, you have a child study team, an IEP team. It's called different things at each school. That information follows the student as they go, as they progress in their grades. That doesn't happen in higher ed. So it's really important that the student reaches out, contacts that disability office. For Montclair, we are fully paperless. So our request or our self-identification process is completed online. We have an online database on our website where students can complete an application. Again, once they're accepted and they're committed to Montclair, they would complete an application, upload their documentation. We review it, we reach out to the students to conduct that intake meeting. That's when we discuss accommodations. That's when we discuss what is reasonable and appropriate in higher ed. Those are the two words that we use most commonly in higher ed when it comes to accommodations. One question we get all the time is, what accommodations will I receive once I get to college? The general answer is it's going to depend it's going to vary by each student, and it will depend on the documentation and the way that diagnosis, those conditions impact that student. But most likely the accommodations will change from what the student receives currently in high school and what they'll receive at Montclair or in college. We can't tell you what it will be until we actually see the.
All right, so give me 2 minutes.
But it
Give me
will
5 minutes.
and I actually, before we get into accommodations, Marie, if you would mind, if you want to share your screen, and if you would like to talk about AIM, our that platform in which we that accommodations process, that self-identification process. Our database is called AIM, for accessible information management. And Ms. Tizan can explain and show you a little bit of how that process looks.
Thank you, Megan. So what I'm sharing here on our site, this is directly from our website. So if you go to, on the left-hand side, we have a link here for AIM. So for students that have been accepted and would like to attend Montclair and would like to continue, receiving accommodations at the college level, they will need to go to this site and specifically go to this drawer here for new DRC students. So students that are not yet registered with us, that are brand new. So you will go on here to this link, and then we have some instructions here. So you will be completing an application process, and these are all active links here. So you can click on this link and it will take you directly to our application, where you will be asked to provide some information for us. Preferably, you would need to complete this once you have already been accepted and you have your NetID account already. So all of that information needs to be completed, and that your Montclair email address is also activated, because there's parts of our application that will only allow for students that have completed this process. So you have to have your NetID and your Montclair email account activated to provide this information in our application. After you complete all of, provided the general information and answered some of our questions on the application, you will then hit submit, and then a new page will come up for you to upload any disability documentation that you can provide us. So if you have a copy of your evaluations, your psychoeducational evaluations, we do not need to have the full history. We just need to have the most recent evaluations from your child study team. And it also is helpful if you could provide us with your IUP as well. So any of those documents that you can provide us, if there are students who have a 504 plan, that is helpful as well. But if you can provide us any necessary evaluations or doctor's letters supporting what you're supporting your diagnosis, and depending upon what your whether you have a chronic medical condition and that is why you have a 504 plan, we just need to have any supporting documentation. If you click on this link for documentation guidelines, it'll take you to different categories that we have for documentation guidelines. So if you're a student with a learning disability, it will outline what type of documentation we will have. If you're a student that has a chronic medical condition, sensory, a psychological disability, so everything is outlined in a category depending upon what your disability falls under. And it'll let you know what type of evaluations or documentations we will be accepting as part of this process. So once you have all of this and uploaded everything, then it will be populated into AIM, and then we will follow up with you as we do with incoming students. For incoming students, we contact them during the summer to be able to just start and explain that that transition into into college, and what type of changes might be what you might experience as a result of, just a changing over from high school to college in terms of accommodations.
Thanks so much, Marie. So since we're talking about accommodations, once you do this process, that's, as I said, that's when we'll start discussing the accommodations themselves. So I'd mentioned that accommodations do change, excuse me, accommodations in higher ed will change from what you received most likely in K through 12. So this is a handout of just some of that example. There are several accommodations that we provide. So this is in no way the full breadth of the accommodations that we provide at Montclair State. These are just some of the more popular, more common ones that we do provide. And as you can see, many of them are direct. Yes, that is something that we can provide. But there are also some that say possibly. And the possiblies, that is regarding the documentation. So it is based on the documentation that is provided to our office. So our most commonly requested, most commonly approved, about 99.9% of our students receive the accommodation of additional time on exams. That is a direct continuation for students that register with our office. And the timing, the amount of time is what will change. What may change, so time and a half versus double time. Again, everything is documentation. But these are some of those examples. So as you may see here, modifications regarding the textbook, the class requirement itself, the assignment itself. Those are all things, again, those two words, reasonable and appropriate. Those are examples of accommodations that are very common before higher education, that are not automatically appropriate nor approved in higher education. Of course, there are always those exceptions based on the student's documentation. But generally speaking, in higher ed, we do not modify exams or tests. So if the exam the professor creates is an essay or short answer exam, but the student prefers multiple choice, that is not an accommodation. That exam is going to be an essay or short answer or whatever format the instructor has created it to be. When it comes to some other types of accommodations, such as breaking down assignments or changing the assignment, if a professor requires a presentation in a class or has a 10-page paper in a class, that is the requirement of the course. That is the assignment as the professor, has created. Again, based on documentation, there may be some flexibility for certain and specific and well-documented types of challenges, but it is not a general accommodation that is provided. Tutoring is also another one of those examples that is not required in an accommodation plan. Tutoring is offered and available to all students, not just DRC students, but to all students at Montclair State. So if a DRC registered student needs tutoring, certain departments have agreements with us that they will allow a longer appointment. Let's say traditionally the appointment is a half hour. Our students may receive 45 minutes or even an hour for the appointment, but that's not part of their accommodation plan. It's just something that the department does if the student reaches out to state that they are registered with our office. So before I turn it over to questions and answers, I wanted to kind of take a break if there's anything that needs to be I know we've talked a lot, and I do see that there are some questions in the chat. If you do have questions, definitely feel free to post something in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, we're more than happy to answer any direct questions. We wanted to give you a general overview of our department and what we do, but there's so much that we can talk about. But we want to kind of make it a little more tailored to your individual questions. With that said, we can't kind of tell you what your student would receive without seeing their documentation and having a meeting with them. So specific questions about a student's approved accommodations are best addressed during an appointment. We are part of, so Montclair State Admissions Department offers telecounseling sessions for prospective students. The DRC participates in that, and we offer telecounseling, which is an opportunity. Again, it's going to be remote, so it can be on Zoom or a phone call. You indicate which you prefer, where you have an opportunity to meet with either Marie or myself and discuss the specific concerns, specific questions regarding your student. Again, we need the documentation, but we can give you a little bit more of what the potential accommodations or potential processes would be for your student specifically. Thanks, Marie. So that is our telecounseling schedule. So as you'll see, we each have days and times beginning April 1st through May, in which we will be assisting and working with families and students with any questions that they have regarding the DRC accommodations, the process, what it's like being a DRC student. Just a little bit of statistics. Montclair has slightly over 20,000 students in our student body, undergraduate and graduate. Our specific department services just under 10% of the total student body. So that gives you a little bit of our numbers. We're actually, that's not correct. We're probably a little over 10% at this point. I looked at our numbers the other day. So we're probably just over 10% at this point in the semester. But that gives you a little bit of your student will not be alone. Often our students may feel like they are the only one in their class, because with disabilities, the general perception of a disability is in society is the person who may be visually impaired or have a mobility concern. Those are visible disabilities. Those are disabilities where you can look at the individual and say, okay, there's an access challenge because they're in a wheelchair, they have crutches, they have a walking cane, they have a cochlear implant. So there is a challenge there, and you can readily and visibly identify what that challenge is by looking at that person. For the majority of our students, they have invisible disabilities, learning related, mental health, medical, sensory related disabilities. Those are not something that you can look at a student and say, oh, you're this student, you must have ADHD. You can't tell that by looking at a student. So that often breeds a sense of isolation or loneliness in some cases, that they feel that they're the only one in the class. We can't tell them you're not. We have 5 other students or 2 other students in your class who are also registered. That's against confidentiality. But we have provided, and we are beginning to increase and develop new initiatives that will connect students and to support each other. So we have an orientation specifically for our incoming students at the end of August, where we meet with the students directly, the full DRC staff and our student staff. So we also have graduate students who serve as interns, and we're developing a peer mentor program. Those students participate in a student panel where they take questions, they talk about their experiences as DRC registered students at Montclair, and give certain tips that have helped them at their time at Montclair. We also have a initial transition program for our first year students. It's called START, which is student transition and readiness training for our students to help them develop those academic skills that they're going to need to be successful in college. Things like time management, study skills, professional communication, self-advocacy. are some of the topics addressed in the START program. It is a voluntary program. It's not mandatory. There's no costs associated with DRC services at all. Essentially, they're already paid for in student fees. That's another thing. But there's no additional cost for our services. We have a variety of additional resources that we provide students in addition to the accommodations that we provide. So I think we'll take some questions. I think I saw a hand raised at one point. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have. Yes, Miss Helen, I see your hand.
Yes, good evening. How are you, ma'am?
Evening. Well, and yourself?
Fine. I'm sorry I came in a little late, but I'm very interested in that part that you mentioned. And it is so true that we easily can identify some children that have problems or they have some, learning disabilities, while many of them we cannot easily, see because it's mental or psychological. So I just want to ask that question. People with anxiety, children with anxiety, maybe social anxiety or any kind of anxiety, can they count into this program?
Absolutely. So we didn't get into the diagnosis specifically, but yes, before COVID, or not even before COVID, but definitely before COVID, within the last 5 to 10 years, if you asked me maybe 5-10 years ago, what was the leading diagnosis or condition that a disability office may see in their students, I would say it's a learning disability. Things like ADD, ADHD, specific learning disabilities, were the number one or most frequently received or identified diagnosis that is common with the DRC. In the last 5 to 10 years, and especially since the pandemic, that has changed. We see significant increases in mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD, social anxiety, OCD, Tourette's even. So absolutely, that is quickly becoming, if it has not already became, our number one most commonly provided documentation, which has resulted in their request for accommodations through the DRC. So yes, we have several students, many students who struggle with a variety of mental health challenges. To that end, universities and colleges have counseling or psychological services at that university, or they contract them out to a nearby hospital or service that addresses that therapeutic need for students, including medication management, weekly therapy groups. Each college or university does that differently. At Montclair State, our department is called CAPS, or Counseling and Psychological Services, and they provide a variety of therapeutic services, such as drop-in services, group therapy, Zoom services, individual appointments, group appointments, workshops, student health ambassadors, you name it. There's a lot that CAPS provides, and we work with them, quite frequently.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Marie, you want to take the next one? You want to take something from maybe the chat?
Sure. Let me just see. I think the chat is just for the Spanish translation. I don't see any.
There's one from Miss Watts. Oh, actually, that's to me. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Marie, if you want, I'll read it out if you want to take it. The question from Miss Watts is, when a student is approved for accommodations, does the DRC notify the professors, or is it up to the student to inform the professor of their approved accommodation?
So it's a little bit of both. So we had showed you the AIM, our DRC portal with AIM. And when you complete your application and a student meets with their DRC counselor, we actually use AIM as a way to notify faculty, professors of what the students' accommodations are going to be. So everything is electronic. So there's no form that your student is going to need to sign or pick up and then deliver that, hand deliver that to their professor. So after a student meets with a counselor for their intake, we're then able to complete their profile on AIM to include what their approved accommodations are going to be. So they will have access to that system. We provide them with instructions to log in and then show them how to actually go through the process of submitting a request. Once the student submits that request, we are then notified through the same system that the student had completed that step. We then go into the system ourselves to then review the request and then have it approved to be emailed to their professors. So the professors have a couple of two ways of accessing this information. One, it will be emailed to them directly. And then two, they also have access to AIM themselves to see which students have been approved for accommodations for the particular courses that they're teaching. In addition to that, what I also do recommend to students is that though it is great that the professors are going to be notified via email, essentially it's still an email. So I recommend that students reach out to their professors to say, hi, my name is Marie. And in the class, there could possibly be 30, 40 other students that are going to be in there. And you want to be able to create that relationship with your professors to let them know, hi, my name is Marie, and you should have received my accommodation notice from the Disability Resource Center. You can even just say a little bit about yourself. And then if you want to follow it up with a meeting, sometimes they may have office hours that you can talk to them so that you can start building that relationship, that they know that you are who you are and what accommodations you're going to need.
Okay, you want to go?
Thanks, Marie. I saw Miss Waters' hand that has been up for a minute.
Yes.
You want to
Yes.
unmute yourself?
Yes, this is her dad, Mr. Waters. This
Hello,
is from
Mr.
Nafia Waters. Yes,
Hi,
I
Miss
have two.
Nafia.
Hey.
Hi.
So I have a question. I have two questions. First, about my daughter right here, Nafia. She's a junior now.
Yeah.
And she's going to be graduating next year. So, how do the process work for her as far as for next year concerned?
Gotcha. So it's great that you're attending, because this is when you're going to start kind of getting an idea of what schools work best for you. So I definitely encourage you to attend college fairs, to attend opportunities like this at any school that you're interested in, for whatever reason you're interested. They could have, a beautiful campus. They have a lot of good dining food. You like a professor, your friends are going there, but check out the school and ask these questions, because
Yes.
this has a lot to do with how you will be able to navigate through that college. Because the primary reason why you're in college is to get that degree.
Yes.
The rest is to help support you in that endeavor. And social experiences, housing, dining, DRC support, those are all important factors to help you be successful and navigate in college. So the first thing would be to attend as many events like this at a variety of colleges and ask questions like that. What does that school offer me? How can you help me? And see what those classes are like. If that school offers opportunities to maybe take a class or shadow a student or attend a webinar or something to kind of get a day, we have something called Red Hawk Day. Our mascot is the Red Hawk, so everything is Red Hawk. So we have Red Hawk Day, where students can get a lot of this exposure to what it's like to be a Red Hawk, to be a Montclair State student. That's going to give you a lot more of an idea of how you feel comfortable at that school, because the goal is to attract students. So we're always going to tell you the great things about the school, but how that relates to you specifically and what you would feel most comfortable with, that is something that you only get from the experience.
Okay. And
So
I
you
got,
wanna, sure.
yeah. No, go ahead. You can finish. Go ahead and finish.
So you definitely want to ask questions, tour the campus. If you want to live on campus, if you can see the res halls, just get that experience out. Once you've kind of narrowed that down, you don't notice I'm not talking about majors.
Yes.
Don't get too attached to a specific major because your mind may change once you take a course. It's very common that a student will start school and say, I want to be a lawyer. I've wanted to be a lawyer or whatever profession since I took a class or saw a presentation. Great, that's awesome. But you may take a sociology class or a psychology class or bio class or law or law class, and you're like, yeah, I don't, this law thing is really, I can make a difference as a social worker or in policy or in political science and go into politics and really make the change that I want to in that realm instead. So keep yourself open to being flexible with your major as well. But you really want to just get the experience of that school. So,
and I have
sure.
And I have one more question. My daughter right here, Naisha Wilson, she graduated JFK 2 years ago.
Congratulations.
She's looking for a college to go into, as far as with the disability. So that's why I'm glad that, that my daughter said that about Montclair State. She has severe case of ADHD. So would she be eligible to come to your college or sign up for you?
Of course.
If that's what she wanted to do?
Your daughter would just need to apply, during the application process, and go on the website. And then if accepted into Montclair, as Megan said, then you would make an appointment with the Disability Resource Center and access their services by, you need to either prove and show documentation.
Yes, yeah, I have all that. We have all that.
But the first step would be during applying to the specific college of choice.
Is there a special time we got to do the application, or it can be done anytime?
It can be done at any time. If you're looking to come in the fall semester, that application, you want to get that in sooner than later. As in now, you want to get that done. Otherwise, you can look at the spring semester. And there's really no difference whether you want to come in the fall or the spring. You'll still have an orientation. You'll still be able to take classes for a first year student. So there's really no difference. It's just one semester difference. We are still, it just depends on whether different programs and things may have certain deadlines. So you have to check out the admissions website to determine those deadlines, the application process and all of that.
Okay, so I come to Montclair State University website. What's the website I gotta go to? Just Montclair?
Correct. Okay. www.montclair.edu.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely.
You just need to go through undergraduate admissions.
Undergrad admissions? Okay,
yes.
This is my daughter. Yeah, this for a night.
I want to take some of the questions that we have in Spanish. So if our translator could maybe help me with that, we can definitely address some of those questions too.
So I haven't seen any questions on my end. I don't know if they're coming directly to you.
Yeah, I haven't seen any either.
All the Spanish in the chat, I think, is me.
That's you. Okay.
I've been translating as you've done.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's still two hands that are up. Ms. Dunham and Joseph.
So we'll take Ms. Dunn.
Ms. Dunham, are you still with us?
Yes, hello. I was actually trying to let you know I couldn't make a comment in the chat, but then also I just wanted to thank you for coming to the meeting. But it just seems like this information is only for Montclair State. I was trying to just make comparisons to the other schools that my child attended, but this seems specific to Montclair State.
Well, so what specific questions do you have? So the process is going to be the same at any school. So you have to submit documentation. Each school does the intake process differently. I've worked at a previous separate university prior to coming to Montclair. The way that university does intakes or incoming applicants differs from how we do, but it's the same general process. You have to provide documentation to the DRC or disability office at that school. First, the student has to be a current accepted admitted student. So that's first, so that the student has to be accepted, committed to that university. Then the student has to reach out to the disability office. It's going to be different names. There's no general name. It's going to be disability, accessibility, special services, resources.
Yeah, it could be so many different.
Yeah, there's so many different acronyms across the board. But you would reach out to that office at the university or college, provide the documentation. They will contact you regarding an appointment, to schedule an appointment. You have to have an intake appointment to discuss accommodations. Once that happens, it's a very similar process that the student will be approved for accommodations and have an accommodation notice. How that notice is provided to the professors, again, is going to differ. The accommodations the student will receive will differ from high school to college. Whether it's a 2-year, meaning Bergen County, Essex County College, it will differ from high school to college. Those accommodations will differ. Some of them will be consistent, but some will change as well. It's the differences is really the process, but the support the student receives is going to be the same. It's going to be accommodations, additional resources or programs will also differ at each school. So every school does not have a staff that can do a lot of the programming and initiatives and additional support that Montclair does. Some schools do more things than what we do. Some schools have a specific program or cohort just for students on the spectrum. They may have a specific program or cohort for students with learning disabilities. It varies across each college. So in terms of compare and contrast, that's what these types of meetings are for. So you can see what Rutgers does. You can see what Seton Hall does, what William Patterson does, what NYU does, and compare that with what's best for your family.
Thank you.
That's the general information that I can kind of provide.
Thank you, Megan.
Absolutely.
We have one other hand that's up.
Yes, I see. You're muted, Dr. Jeter.
I'm sorry. I was just pointing out the one parent hand that's up.
Yep.
That's it.
That's I believe that's Berman Josal. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. My apologies.
I'll ask to unmute them and see if they still have their question. They're not responding, so.
Okay, so let's take Pamela,
we'll take Miss Linden.
Pamela at this point.
Pamela Linden?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello.
we can hear you.
So my child has a language-based learning disability, dyslexia to be specific. Your Montclair State has a requirement of 2 years of a world language to be admitted. How do you look at students who have difficulty in English? Then, you know, what happens if he cannot take 2 years of a world language? Does that limit his admission into Montclair State?
You want to take that one?
Because our office is not necessarily involved in the actual admissions process. So I'm not sure what exactly the exact requirements are and how they handle that. And if a student has not completed, completed the certain requirements, perhaps that might be a way that can be explained in an essay. Okay. To explain any kind of requirements that a student may not have completed, or a lot of times what I've told students is that if there's a discrepancy between, we are SAT optional. So in years prior to that, a lot of students were concerned that what if I don't meet that minimum requirement of what Montclair has for SATs? But we don't have that any longer. But I would say that if there's any type of discrepancies that a student would like to share or provide a reason, that could be a way of, you don't have to disclose, but it's providing us with, providing our admissions department with context as to why this might be apparent in the student's grades or in their profile as they are, applying to Montclair.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, good evening, Megan and Maria. I'm sorry, I was a little bit late chiming in. I'm Dr. Gita, I'm Director of Student Related Services. Thank you guys so much for being here. There's one thing that I would ask you to just point out to our parents tonight, and that is the relationship of parents' abilities to communicate and contact you guys, and the differences between what they can do at the high school level, middle school level, K to 12, which they cannot do with you guys. I'm just going to ask you to speak to that.
So I'll let Marie take this one, but I'll just quickly say, Dr. Gita is absolutely correct. We don't communicate with parents. There's definite limitations to what we can provide parents. You're more than welcome to give us, to communicate some concerns that you have regarding your students. But the best way to do that is to direct or help your students reach out and contact us directly. If that means you're sitting next to them or you're on the phone with them or you're texting them or on FaceTime and they're typing the email, that's how you support your student. Aside from those situations where the student is unable to reach out to us, we often get parents who may let us know that the student is in the hospital or has had some other challenges that they're unable to reach out. That's different, but a general outreach to us, we do not provide information about how your student's doing. You will not have access to your student's grades. You will not have access to anything but a bill. Sorry. You are viewed as a checkbook or a debit credit card at a college or university. All communication goes to your student and your student only, except that bill. And even the bill goes to the student. So part of what we do with the DRC is we offer in that student orientation, we also offer a parent orientation just for parents, where we talk about a lot of this information. We familiarize you with certain resources on campus. So when your student is saying that they're struggling with their anxiety, that they need help with tutoring, that their professor, they don't know how they're doing in their classes, you have some information of how to respond to that. Of, okay, if you're struggling with your anxiety, did you talk to CAPS? If you have some tutoring needs, did you make a tutoring appointment? You remember there's tutoring on campus. Did you check Canvas, which is our learning platform, regarding their grades? So educating our parents to then, because you're still going to be that sole support. When I was in school, I went to my mom. My mom had no college experience. I'm a first generation student, meaning I'm the first and only person in my family to go to college, get a college degree. I'm in a doctoral program now. So I had to pretty much do this on my own without my parents knowing how to support me. So we value and know that relationship between you and your student, that you'll always be mom, dad, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa. You will always be that. And your student will always go to you first and foremost before they come to us. But your role, you can step back a little bit and help redirect them to reach out to us. And we can pick up that role.
Megan, the parent commented on the FERPA form, which is accurate. The FERPA form allows the student to complete, to give parents some access, but even that is limited.
It's limited.
Yes.
And it does not involve DRC.
Yeah, does not.
That is only grades and financial
Tuition,
information.
I think. Yeah, financial and grades. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's for a specific time frame.
Yeah, I think it's only provided for that specific day.
Mhm.
I don't think it goes beyond, it doesn't go for an entire semester. But Megan is right. I mean, we do realize that you are, as a parent or a guardian, you're there, you've been advocating for them since they were born. And we realize that. And you know, staff here at Montclair realize that as well. But we see your student as an adult. So as a college student, you're going to be an adult now. But sometimes that's a really scary transition, not just for the student, but also for the parent and guardian as well. So while we do recognize that that's going to be another transition that both parents, guardians, and students are going to go through, I think taking the time now to assist your student, to assist your child in learning how to advocate for themselves, passing on that torch so that they can learn that once they are here, I know I can rely on, my parent, but there's also a great, sense of independence that you can instill in your student while they go through that here. So it's not that big of a jump once they're here already. So, taking little baby steps and allowing them to, okay, let's look at the website. Let's, why don't you take initiative in finding what schools are you looking to apply to? Allowing them to have these types of decisions, making those decisions, and then picking a day for a tour. Again, it's giving them these opportunities to practice their independent skills, and self-advocacy is really going to make a difference in the long run as they mature and get further into their college experience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone, did Nafia have another question? I see her hand raised again.
Yes, hello. Yes, I was asking about Montclair State. Do they have culinary arts?
No, I
Not
don't.
really. We have nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition or possibly a hospitality, but not a culinary.
Mhm.
Okay.
That would probably, Mr. Waters, we could always discuss that even with Ms. Diaz as well.
Okay.
At the time, if you're exploring culinary arts, we can always provide some options for you of some schools that offer that.
Okay, yeah, because that's what my daughter interested in. My
Okay.
oldest daughter, 23-year-old.
Okay. We could always provide some resources and we can bring it home. We can send it home with Nafia.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any other questions?
I put some information, I put some of our links in the chat. So the DRC contact information, our number, our email, and our website. And I also put the link to our telecounseling sessions that will begin tomorrow, April 1st. Oh goodness, pause for reaction. So they will begin tomorrow. If you're interested, if you wanted to have a little more specific conversation. We are also involved in open house. So if you ever want to come to campus and you want to come to an open house event, there is an opportunity to meet with either Marie or myself. We both staff open house to discuss this a little bit more in depth with your students specifically. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
And Megan, as I mentioned, I will share the information of the teleconferences with our case managers, and I'll share it with them, and they can always share it with any students that might be interested.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome. Did Josil come back? Last name Josil? I still see the hand up and
Hand is still raised, but I've asked unmute and.
Okay, I'm gonna lower the hand then. I tried to
Okay.
communicate with them.
Any last opportunity for any last minute questions? All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Jeter, if you have any last.
No, I just want to say I am so grateful and highly impressed at the number of parents who showed up this evening. I think this information is so crucial for all grade levels. I know, we think about post-graduation or post-secondary only for our seniors, but it's not. All of our students have to prepare for what they need to do once they leave our school. So I am just extremely grateful to Megan and to, is it Maria? I think it was Maria. Maria, I'm sorry, for the information that you shared tonight. This is so pertinent. And I'm grateful for you guys making time to just join us this evening. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for
And to
having
all
us.
of the parents, kudos to you guys for being here.
Absolutely.
And for asking questions, and Ms. Sab and you know, our entire Sepac team, which I get to take no credit for. Thank you guys for the work that you do in organizing these opportunities for our families. This is just an important topic, and I appreciate you guys being here. Ms. Calamano, thank you for those translations. I see it both and hear it. So thank you guys all. I do appreciate you all, and I just want to say thank you again to everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
us. We
much
have
for
to
joining
give
us.
you a huge shout out. This is by far our we do these types of things for a lot of different high schools. This is our largest group. So that is a tremendous shout out to Pain Tech and what you do and your concern as parents and loved ones. So if there's anything we can ever do to continue this conversation, we're more than open, more than willing. I'm just going to speak for the whole DRC staff, but thank you so much for having us. We hope to see the students as future Red Hawks in the fall, 22, 23, 24, 25, 20, whenever. The DRC will be more than happy to welcome you to our Red Hawk family. So good luck to all of our seniors. Congratulations on your impending graduation. Good luck to all of the students in all of your endeavors, whether it's Montclair or anywhere. We wish you the most success. I just want to leave you with one quote that I personally love, and it's an inspiration to me from Audrey Hepburn. Though nothing itself is impossible, the word itself says, I'm possible. Thank you all.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the rest of
And
the
One
evening.
last
Dr.
piece that we
Gina,
have to leave with you,
thank
Megan,
y'all.
just so you know, you guys are welcome, and Marie. So we have parents and students from all three of our campuses. We have 3 campuses. So we also have West Caldwell Tech and the Newark Tech campus. So we have families from all 3. And we are so grateful that they took the time to join us and for you guys to be here. A lovely message and just great presentation. Thank you guys.
Thank
Take
y'all
care,
for everything.
Everybody have a good night.
Have a good
All
evening,
right, thank
guys.
you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Gina.
Thank you.
Always, you're very
All
welcome.
right. All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a good night.
Once Mark was accepted, his siblings will also be accepted.
You're done.
They didn't say nothing about you need a special grade for an average. Remember that.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good night. Mommy.